So something happened over the weekend that I certainly was not expecting. We have a user on Reddit that is claiming that they have the final retail Switch 2. And at first when I saw this and I saw people covering it, I was like, man, this could just be anything. But the more I've read into it and the more I'm reading all of these replies on this Reddit thread, the more I want to believe. I'm not saying I do believe this, so take everything here with a massive, massive grain of salt as always, but we have someone that claiming they have a retail Switch 2 units, which, off rip, that sounds absurd. However, if you've been following this channel for a while, you will know we don't know this with certainty, but I've talked about it a couple weeks ago based on the Foxconn kind of financial information that came out in November, as well as a bunch of other shipping data. We've actually talked about the idea that there might just be a warehouse full of Switch 2 units as Nintendo is planning to fight scalpers and ramp up production. Based on everything we know, it does sound like that is true, that there are finalized Switch 2 units in the wild, or I should say in a warehouse somewhere, not necessarily in the wild. So for this person to have one of those units is definitely a stretch. However, based on that, it's not completely impossible in my opinion. And there's one other piece of this puzzle that I do think actually kind of leads some believability to the entire thing, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So this is the post from the user Next Handheld on r/Nintendo Switch 2. He said, I got my muggy hands on a final release Switch 2 and its dock. Ask me anything. I'll post proof on Christmas, which I definitely raises some red flags in my opinion. Please stop private messaging me for photos. And, you know, usually it's just like, okay, well, anybody on Reddit can do anything, say anything. And here's the thing. Even though this next thing I think does help its chances of being real, it's still just a random mod. I don't know who Max Not Cool is, but they're saying here, TLDR, this leaker was able to confirm that they are, at least to some extent, telling the truth about having information that hasn't leaked yet, or they are a really good hoaxer. They did not want to share the evidence because it could reveal their identity to people around them. Also, I don't think they actually are, quote, from the future. I think that was a weird joke. So, the mods of r/Nintendo Switch 2 supposedly got some sort of evidence from this person that makes them believe it's real. But that's kind of my issue. I don't know who Max Not Cool is. I don't know if I can trust the mods on r/Nintendo Switch 2. So taking everything with a grain of salt, I don't really know what this person could necessarily show them that would make them 100% believe it's real. I mean, we're at the point where we're seeing the Switch 2 from actual accessory manufacturers. So what necessarily could this individual have that is even better than that? I guess it feels a little weird. But someone on this Reddit did a kind of roundup of everything covered in this Reddit thread, and I wanted to read through it because there's a couple of very interesting things, most notably relating to the release timing and Mario Kart 9 being a potential launch title or having some sort of special edition. And I'll have all of these threads linked down below because there is a ton of this guy's going crazy. If this is a real leak, if this is someone who actually has the console in hands, which once again, I don't know if I really believe. I mean, he's doing a very thorough Q&A. It's been over the entire weekend, and he's still posting. Most recently, he posted this just an hour ago as of when I'm recording. He said March. It's releasing in March. So that's crazy. But let's go ahead and read through this Q&A, kind of just going over all of the general information, starting off with, is it really called Switch 2? And this person is saying, yes, it is actually called the Switch 2, which I think a lot of us are kind of expecting at this point. I'm not sure if I am fully on board with that idea, but maybe. I'll give that one a hard maybe. I think it's possible. And it would make sense given the whole Wii U situation. What does the logo look like? He said it's a giant 2 next to the original logo. I believe we had heard that from some Chinese manufacturing back in September. So if it is called Switch 2 and if that is the logo, that's not really a huge surprise. Someone asked, rumors were that the system had just started production. Is this true? He said, oh, it's further ahead than that. I mean, so far, a lot of what he's saying in his little AMA here is stuff that we know or have already talked about and discussed for months prior to this. So that's kind of my issue with if I really want to believe it. But I want to believe it because he's implying a March release date, which is crazy. How do you know it's the final retail model? He just said it is the final retail model. Why can't you post proof until Christmas? This is one that was really kind of making me wonder, what's up with Christmas? Why can he do Christmas? And he said, revealing proof now would make it too obvious who I am. And I saw another post in the thread. He was basically saying, if he waits until Christmas, he assumes more people will have it by then, have the information he has access to by then. that definitely is a red flag in my opinion. Not because it's, it's totally possible, right? It's totally possible that by Christmas, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, there will be more people who get their hands on these things. If it is sitting in a warehouse, if there are warehouse workers, maybe moving them around, maybe they're shipping some out to developers, that kind of thing. That's possible. But the whole like revealing it on Christmas thing is probably the biggest red flag for me. I don't know why he thinks 10 days is enough to really clear his name. The fear is that he shows some proof or something, and then Nintendo's able to track him based on that proof. But is someone else really going to have that same information in 10 days? That really rubs me as a weird. This is weird. This part of it is definitely weird. When will it be revealed? I've heard January, possibly during a Nintendo meeting, but that isn't confirmed. This is also weird to me. Like, if he has a retail unit, okay, that's fine. If he managed to get one through shipping or something, from to and from a warehouse. But why would he know when the reveal is? That seems weird to me. Here's one of the most important questions, I would say. Do you know any launch titles? They said, I don't know any launch titles, but there is a game-themed Switch of a game IP that hasn't had its own dedicated console yet. So this goes in tandem with something else that we'll get to, but basically a lot of people are predicting it's Mario Kart 9. We'll get to it ahead. I mean, I'll just go and see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. He said, were you able to turn it on to play games? He said, no, I didn't turn it on. However, I know of one game coming with a special edition Switch, and the number 9 is in the title. I think this goes in tandem with that other question about it's being of a game IP that hasn't had its own dedicated console. Everybody is saying it's going to be Mario Kart. There technically have not been any Mario Kart special edition Switches at the very least. There's been bundles with the OLED and stuff, but everybody is assuming based on that and based on him saying the game has a 9 in the title, that it's Mario Kart 9, and that Mario Kart 9 is almost certainly a launch title for this console. This is what I think is the most interesting talking point. I don't know if Nintendo will do a special edition console at launch. I really don't think they would. I can't think of another time that they have done that. They might ship 2 SKUs, right? Like they might have the gray Joy-Con and the red and blue Joy-Con variant. They might have the deluxe Wii U and the white Wii U. They might have 2 different colors for the 3DS when that launches. But a special edition, like maybe bundled even with the game, that to me is a red flag because they've never done that. However, the more I was thinking about this, the more that almost actually makes me believe it more. And here's why. Nintendo does not launch with special editions. However, he is saying it is a game-themed Switch of a game IP that does not have a special edition console. Everybody is jumping to the conclusion that is Mario Kart 9. But major issue with that, Mario Kart 9 is probably not going to be called Mario Kart 9. It is possible it's called Mario Kart 9, but that would be a lie as to what the game is. It is Mario Kart 10. Mario Kart Tour is Mario Kart 9. I do think it's possible they call it Mario Kart 9 despite that because of, just simple marketing things, right? If they're calling this the Switch 2 because they don't want to confuse consumers, maybe they call it Mario Kart 9 because that way it's very clear cut, like this is the next thing after Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. If they call it Mario Kart Max or something, or Mario Kart X, people might be like, oh, well, this isn't like the next thing. I guess they could call it Mario Kart 10, but that would be confusing because then what is Mario Kart 9 to the average consumer? But regardless, people think it's Mario Kart 9 and that would be a launch title for the console. I think this is Final Fantasy IX Remake. We have heard so much about Final Fantasy IX Remake. It was in the NVIDIA leak, I believe, back in 2021 or 2022. We know it exists. The producers over at Creative Business Unit 3, I think they changed their name recently. They have basically, pretty openly, alluded to it being in development. We know Final Fantasy IX Remake is happening, and we know, based on other rumors, that Square Enix is almost certainly saving it for the Switch 2. I believe it was Midori who had said that originally, and with Square Enix having almost no titles announced for 2025, I can't see any reason they haven't announced it, right? They're obviously saving it for Switch 2. Maybe it's part of the Switch 2 reveal events. I'm not sure, but I think this is that game that has a 9. And this is that franchise that does not have a themed console. There are no Nintendo consoles themed after Final Fantasy. Maybe on Game Boy Advance or DS. I don't think so, though. I think that's what this is. Especially looking at this, the Samus Hunter tweet that basically says what I just said. There is this Reddit thread that is circulating many aspects related to the hardware match, what has already been circulating for months. The information, however, about the game with the 9 is not Mario Kart. Mario Kart is not targeting as a launch title. And that was another thing too, beyond there being a special edition at launch, Mario Kart can be the launch title. That's fine, but I don't know if you want to launch with that, especially because I do think there would be another EPD4 Switch Sports Resort kind of thing, right? It's 1-2 Switch kind of thing, Nintendo Land kind of thing. We will have some sort of tech demo multiplayer game. We always have one. We always have one from Nintendo. So To launch with Mario Kart and then that on top of it would certainly feel weird to me. It's possible. Mario Kart obviously is a system seller, but to launch with probably 2 multiplayer games definitely feels odd to me. When you could have 3D Mario at launch, or even Metroid Prime 4, frankly, I think Metroid Prime 4 would almost be a better launch title than Mario Kart, and then you have Mario Kart a few months later. Mario Kart is almost certainly coming out in the next 12 months, I totally believe that, but I just don't know if it releasing at launch necessarily makes the most sense. Samus Hunter also said here, there is, however, the Final Fantasy IX remake that will be coming out, although I have no information on a possible bundle or limited edition at the moment. I also saw some people speculating that maybe Resident Evil 9 could have some sort of Switch 2 bundle. I'm not sure about that. I think Final Fantasy IX remake is certainly the most likely. And here's the thing with there being a special edition, right? This person is saying that there is a game-themed Switch of a game in an IP that hasn't had its own dedicated console yet, and he's saying that despite the fact that he didn't turn the Switch 2 on, he knows of one game coming with a special edition Switch and the number 9 in it. Now, as far as I can tell, parsing through all of the AMA, I don't think he said that the game with the 9 is necessarily a launch title, just that he knows it's coming and that there's a special edition Switch tied to it. So maybe Mario Kart comes out in, like, I don't know, July or something, and he already knows about that leaked special edition. Here's the thing with manufacturing. If you remember back in, I think it was either late December 2022 or like January, like first week of January 2023, we had the first product shots and leaked images of the box for the Tears of the Kingdom OLED. That console was not announced for, I think, 3 or 4 months, and then it released in May. Let's say the Switch 2 is releasing in March, as we'll get to with his AMA. If the Switch 2 is releasing in March, let's say it has no special edition at launch, has 3D Mario, maybe it has Metroid Prime 4 and Switch Sports Resort, whatever. Switch Sports 2, probably. You would want to have that 2 in the title, since it is going to be called Switch 2, if we're believing all of this. Maybe you have that happen in March, like mid-March or something, and then in like June, July, you either get Mario Kart 9 or Final Fantasy 9, and then the special edition releases. I think it's possible that even though Nintendo has not announced the console, I think it's possible they're already prepping a special edition or some sort of bundle for a few months after release. I was thinking back to the Switch kind of cycle in 2017. Obviously, it came out in March. There was no special edition. The first like proper special edition we got was the Mario Odyssey one that came out, I believe, in October of 2017. I guess it might have just been the day the game came out, so that was October 27th. However, there actually was a Splatoon 2 bundle in July, so only 3-4 months after the Switch release back in 2017. We could be looking at a similar thing here where the Switch 2 releases in March and we get a Mario Kart bundle in June, and I think it's totally believable that they would already be like preparing those and having those ready for that, launch window period. It's not extremely likely that if it is like July or August that's ready, but if Mario Kart is a June game, I think it's totally possible that this person would know that, yeah, there's a Mario Kart 9 bundle or a Final Fantasy 9 bundle releasing in the summer, because that stuff would probably already be prepared. It's also possible that this person is a Square Enix employee. I think that's also a certain possibility when it comes to this, although I don't know if Square Enix would have an actual like dedicated unit just yet, right? Like, would they really have a retail unit? They would have dev kits, but they probably wouldn't have like a retail unit. Yeah, that's the main thing, is this whole Mario Kart 9, Final Fantasy 9 talking points. Everybody thinks it's Mario Kart 9, and while I do think Mario Kart 9, or the next Mario Kart 10 is what it actually is, well, I do think that is imminent, right? I do think we will see that game, and it will release probably this calendar year, 2025, of course. I think the game they're talking about is Final Fantasy. I really do believe that. We know nothing about Square Enix's lineup next year. The only game they have announced right now is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake. I talked about it in my Game Awards video, I believe. The fact that Square Enix has announced nothing, I think, is very telling that they have a lot to say, just they're waiting for Nintendo to say something. So I think Final Fantasy IX Remake is going to be in that Switch 2 reveal event, and maybe it'll have a special edition, and that's the 9 that they're alluding to in the game. So that's like the main thing. They did also say that that it's releasing in March, which I don't want to believe that, but also I do want to believe that, because that would be so exciting. I know that's a very short marketing cycle, but if it's announced, let's say second week of January, I think at this point, this is all gone not according to what I expected, right? Like, I was saying it would release in March like 2 years ago, March 2025. I did think it would be announced in 2024, though. I did not think they would release it in January and release it 2 months later. And I think a lot of people watching this video in the comments down below are going to say, like, well, that's way too fast. And on the one hand, I kind of agree. In fact, I mostly agree. On the other hand, it's 2024, man. Information spreads so fast. I don't know if games and consoles really need that level of marketing. You know, we're not going to pull a Sega Saturn on this. They're not going to drop it at E3 and just, it's out in the wild now, right? 2 months is the time that we had from the Switch 2017 presentation to when that released. That was all the marketing that 1-2 Switch had, and that game sold 4 million copies, and that game is 1-2 Switch. I don't know if a 3D Mario game or Mario Kart need that marketing necessarily, because they're going to be marketing those games for eternity, right? Like, you still see ads for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart 9 or 10, whatever it's called, will be marketed for years. So 2 months of marketing pre-release, I don't really know if that is like a full stop, like, oh, it can't release that soon, because I think it could. Maybe that's cope, right? Like, maybe that's just me being way too wishful with my thinking here, and that it would release in 3 months, but I don't think March is as impossible as a lot of people are acting at this point. I know there's been a lot of other rumors from like Nate the Hate saying it's releasing in May or June, and that's totally possible as well. I still lean towards like the April timeframe, because I think it is a little weird to announce Xenoblade X for March 21st and then release the Switch 2 probably weeks before that. That to me is a little odd, but then maybe you want to have people already on Switch 2, and then they look at Xenoblade X and they're like, oh, well, even if it doesn't have like advancements, right, or enhancements, you could still market it and be like, hey, this is playable on Switch 2, you know, 2 weeks after release, we're already gracing you with this, you know, 100, 200-hour JRPG. That kind of makes sense to me, to be honest. So, while ultimately I do lean towards like an April release for this console, the idea of it releasing in March, I don't think is as far-fetched as a lot of people at this point are claiming, especially based on like all the shipping data and stuff that we've seen, with there apparently being finished retail units in warehouses in November, right? And now in December. And obviously that's going to keep ramping up and getting more and more, you know, units every month added to it. I don't know, man. I really don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I don't think March is that far-fetched, to be completely honest. But yeah, just reading through here, I mean, there's just, like I said, a ton of information that's most of it we've talked about before, right? Like it having an LCD screen, we've known that for a while. People are going to lose their minds, and, you know, it's sad that it doesn't have an OLED, but at the same time, LCD tech has improved so much beyond where we were at in, let's say, 2017, right? Like, I have the PS Portal, laugh at me, I know, remote playing device. The screen on that thing is actually, like, really good. It's not as good as the Switch OLED screen, but it's comparable, to be completely honest with you. So if it's an LCD screen as good as that, then I'm fine with that. There was no camera on it, but for some reason the guy did suggest that the top USB-C could be used for it. I'm not sure who the guy is that they're referring to here, so maybe there's another guy involved in all this. How many USB ports are located on the dock? It's literally the same, 2 USB-A ports on the side, USB-C, HDMI, and Ethernet inside, so that's interesting. I wonder, it's going to be bigger, but the center like USB-C thing on the bottom is in the same spot. I wonder if you'd be able to use Switch 1 docks with this. We know we're not going to be able to connect Switch 1 Joy-Con because they have a whole new connection system with the magnets, but I mean, maybe you'll be able to use your Switch 1 docks with this thing. That'd be interesting, especially because doesn't the OLED dock do 4K output, even though it doesn't need to? I think that's the thing. I think it does do 4K output, so that'd be interesting. I haven't really thought about that before, but you might be able to use your Switch 1 docks. Much lighter than a Steam Deck, but about the same weight as the Switch OLED. That sounds about right. The Steam Deck is a chonky boy. The dock has curved edges and back. It doesn't cover the top of the screen. So this is something that we actually have some mock-ups of. Some amazing person made these, and you can see on the bottom here, the dock, based on what they're saying, this won't be 100% exact, but they're kind of giving you an idea here of like, okay, well, if it doesn't cover the entire screen, maybe it's covering half the screen. Maybe, I don't know if Nintendo would actually do anything interesting here where like it displays information, but it would seem odd to change it that much and then not do anything with it, right? Like, why would you change this even at all if you're not going to do something here with this, with the top of half of the screen here? So maybe like it'll show you like the time. I don't know. I don't know if it'd be used in like in games necessarily, but maybe it'll show you the time, your Joy-Con charge level. That feels kind of pointless, to be honest, but I'm sure there could be some cool applications there. Okay, yeah, this is kind of going with my theory that maybe whatever special edition he saw will be later on. He says, I don't know about at launch, except the gray ones are being sent first. Not sure if the white will be at launch or later, or when the game one themed one will ship as well. He did say at some point in the thread that there will be like a fully white white one, including the console body, which is really nice. We have very few Switches that actually change the color of like the body of the Switch. They're all usually just black. Even the special edition ones are just like black, and then they have like some, you know, like the Tears of the Kingdom like designs all over it, or like the Splatoon ones, right? And then there's the Mario Red one, which actually does change the body color of the Switch to red, the Switch OLED. But based on what he's saying, there will be like a white one that actually has like a white back and everything, which is actually pretty cool. I'd totally be down for that. I love me a good white, nice, clean, white-looking console. He's saying here the top side of the Joy-Con has a surprise feature. That's vague. What does that mean? What do you mean it has a surprise feature? The magnets themselves are buttons. Interesting indeed. The mod Max Not Cool makes an interesting point about the title having a 9 in it. The next 3D Mario, in a way, could be considered 9, like the 9th mainline 3D Mario, because we have 64 Sunshine, 64 DS, Galaxy, Galaxy 2, 3D Land, 3D World, and Odyssey. That's 8. Plus 1 is 9. I doubt they would put 9 in the title of a 3D Mario game. I would also swap 64 DS for Bowser's Fury, because that's not a new game. But Bowser's Fury is basically a new game, so technically that's the 9th 3D Mario game. But I really do think it's probably Final Fantasy 9. That's really what I'm feeling. But I mean, hey, if Mario Kart 9 releases like 2 or 3 months after March, then yeah, sure, I guess. I think ultimately, I don't believe this. I really don't. I want to believe this because I want to believe in a March release. I want to believe in just an absolutely slam-packed, jam-packed January with tons of amazing reveals. And ultimately, I do think that we will get that. I do think that January is going to be an incredible month for Nintendo fans and for people like me who are dying to see this dang console and see, most importantly, the games for it. March feels too optimistic, though. I really, really, really hope that's true. And if it is true and this guy is not, you know, messing about here and we get proof on Christmas Day, then, you know, hats off to you, my good sir. You leaked it all. But it's also most of the information here is old information, just kind of repackaged as an AMA. Really, the only new thing here is the release timing, even if you can even really count that, and the idea of a game with a 9 in it having a special edition console, which, to be fair, is very exciting, and I think is deeper than the people just saying Mario Kart 9 think it is. I think that is an interesting... That is interesting, if that is true. But let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. What do you think of this new Reddit leak from Next Handheld over on the Nintendo Switch 2 subreddit? Like I said, I'll have all this linked down below. You can read through the Q&As for yourself. At first, I wasn't going to make a video, but it just kept, you know, piling up, and I was like, fine, I'll talk about this because everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about Mario Kart 9, and I wanted to get my input in here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 news, reviews, discussions, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, and check out my other channel at It's Amiibo. I posted a Fantasian Neo Dimension review over there this morning, so go check out that. Until next time, folks, peace.